Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. Now, we've been talking a bit about those new appointments by the Chief Secretary, Farley Augustine, for his new T.H.A executive. And as indicated earlier, I'm chatting this morning virtually with Dr. Denise Tsoiafatt-Angus, who is the political leader of the IDA. Welcome back, Dr. Angus.
Good morning, Shenell. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago and the diaspora. I hope that I'm being heard. I know that we have a freeway technology issue going on right now, so I hope that I'm being heard.
Yeah, you are being heard loud and clear this morning, so we're happy to chat with you. Like many of us, we sat back yesterday and had the opportunity to see the unveiling of this new T.H.A executive in alignment with the agenda of this new administration. What were some of your initial thoughts watching on yesterday?
Okay, so I was not able to look at the full event yesterday, but I do know that, it is the Chief Secretary's choice to look at everything and determine where he places persons in order to execute on what they consider to be their mandate. So that is in his purview, and that's what we saw being unfolded yesterday.
Excellent. And for you, were there any areas of surprises, and are you optimistic about the way that the divisions have been broken down and new areas created?
Okay, I don't consider it to be surprises because I have to understand that secretaries are essentially policymakers and should be able to operate in just about any area that they are put in because they are to work with the administrator and technical staff. So regardless of what expertise you think you bring to the space, it really is about the working along with the staff that you have, which primarily is your administrator and the others. So we wait to see the pairing of the administrators to understand the capacity that they bring to the table in order to execute on the policies that are developed, hopefully not developed from the top down, but developed from coming into, from the ground, the people, and also the technical staff.
Right. How are you feeling about the expansion of the divisions and having so many divisions in existence now? Are you able?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
How do you feel about the expansion of those divisions and the number of divisions that are now available to cover the areas for development?
Again, it's not so much the expansion of divisions, but the effectiveness of the persons who are managing the divisions and creating the policies for them. So regardless of where they were put, it really is about the capacity to effectively manage the relationship in order to deliver.
Right.
At a time when we are going into basically an economic crisis, I don't know if the expanded roles and the number of divisions may be the best way forward at this time. And those are tough decisions that you have to make as to what is important. Do you spend the money on expanding all of these divisions, increasing staff, purchasing furniture, renting new buildings, or do we put the money elsewhere in order to further the development on the island? So those are decisions that they would have had to make, and I guess they decided that it would have been better to expend the funds on expanding the divisions and the number of divisions they had under their purview.
Understood. And do you have any recommendations or anything that you would like to see that this administration prioritizes moving forward?
Well, I am always standing on the side of the people and inclusion of the people. And one of the areas that I have concerns with right now that I think is worth mentioning is I saw in the Tobago House of Assembly chamber that a number of motions were moved. And whilst, there are issues with a number of them, there are actually two that I have concerns with that whilst may create flexibility for the administration, tends to lock out the people. And the first is removing a standard of a Thursday, 1:30 p.m., where persons have a predictability to know that regardless of whatever occurs, that Thursday at 1:30 p.m. will have a sit-in. To now moving it to where a sit-in can be called at any time. And I want people to understand is that even though a sit-in was called at 1:30 p.m. on the Thursday, the fourth Thursday, already in the standing orders, there was the option to include additional sittings in addition to, that once a month sitting. So that was already in place. So I have concerns with the unpredictability of the sittings that has been now put in place, supposedly to accommodate flexibility, but it doesn't become flexible for the public because they would now have to plan and unplan for sit-ins and not sure when they may occur and what time frame is being given to announce the sitting so that persons can put aside the time to either be there or to even look at online. So I think that I think they need to, I would like for them to review that and to actually create, whether it is Thursday didn't work, create a predictable sitting, and then you can add to that as you go along.
Understood.
Then another area that, I'm sorry, you were going to say something, Shenell?
No, go ahead. I was just going to speak to the fact that I was going to ask you whether or not you felt like true impact could happen where there is a newly constituted division within the space of 9 months, let's say, as the chief secretary would have indicated that he's giving every secretary and every assistant secretary 9 months to prove themselves in the development of a new building out a new division. We know that, even the administrative component of staffing these divisions take a while. How long do you think it would take before actual impact begins?
Well, I would hope that the chief secretary understood all of those parameters before he laid out that he considers 9 months to be the area of performance that he is demanding of them. So I am sure that hopefully he would have looked at all of those and determined 9 months was indeed an appropriate time period for them to begin delivering. So I wouldn't go against that because he had to know what he was putting out there and the cards that he had in hand, and therefore he determined 9 months was appropriate. But I would like to add one other area of movement that I felt, because you see, Shenell, we're talking about going forward and executing on a mandate, but we cannot execute without involving the people in the process of execution. And that is where the House of Assembly legislature comes into play. And so, given my strength as a former presiding officer, you would understand that that is an area that I would look at carefully to ensure that the voices of the people can be heard, and that we're not just locked out of a process for the next however long, but that there is a process for inclusion of the people, given that this administration has all 15 seats. And so one of the other areas is the movement from petitioning, where it moved from one signature to 400 signatures. So in the standing orders, there was a provision for petitions to be made by the public. And those petitions just have to come in with one signature and would be referred to the secretary, whether it's a question, whether it's a motion, and that would be answered. Now, perhaps they may say one signature, that's too little. But I think moving to 400 signatures to move a motion, that is kind of onerous, given that we only have, 60,000 people on the island we're talking about. And we have to ask ourselves, what standard would have been used to actually propose 400 signatures and to move from one signature to 400? And when you look at the United Kingdom and their issue on Windrush, that they were able to, have signatures to move into Parliament, whilst they got about 177,000 signatures, the minimum that they had to get was about 120,000, so that the Parliament was forced to debate the Windrush issue, which would have been them not sending persons home after so many years of building the United Kingdom. And when you look at the standards that they used, they had 120,000 signatures for 67 million people. And if you map out what really, according to that standard, we should have inside the chamber, it's really no more than 80 signatures we should be having. Okay? So I think they need to take another look at that. And even at 80 signatures, we have to ask ourselves, what are we really attempting to achieve? So they need to take another look at that, because 400 people actually lock the people out of the process, feeling as if they don't have access. They may even consider, 15. Given that there are 15 around the table, they give the public 15. But that is up to them. But 400 for a motion and 100 for questions is not acceptable. It locks the people out. And I don't know whether it was intentional or not intentional, but it needs to be reviewed.
Understood. And, finally, what would the role of the IDA be moving forward? Do you plan on working closely with this administration? Do you plan on doing the work to create motions and questions to ask in the House and circulating it around Tobago, and remaining active in holding this administration to account outside of social media advocacy? What are some of the plans for the IDA moving forward?
No, we will be definitely engaging the people in conversations and educating them about the, legislature, the process, and working with them to see how do they get involved in getting their voices to be heard. We will continue to advocate for justice. So, for instance, I don't think Abby Taylor was given the best chance at developing, because she was given an appointment to the Director of Antiquities. Supposedly, the Director of Antiquities is a role where you have to be managed. And when you have somebody not being recruited through a fair T.H.A process, and mind you, I think he's fully qualified to fit that role. But because they didn't put her through a process and they just appointed her into the position, I think they are setting her up for failure, where you can have public servants who say, well, you're a political appointee, so we cannot answer to you, and therefore you turn around and blame the public servants all over again. I think that could have been dealt with in a more appropriate way, and with a way that would have given Ms. Taylor the full authority and responsibility to develop that department, or I don't know if they're calling it a division or
department of Antiquities under the Division of Tourism.
And so I think they're setting her up for failure in that regard. And so we spoke out in defense of Ms. Taylor in terms of how she was recruited and giving her the full wherewithal to be able to execute on the mandate.
Right. And I really do hope that is rectified and it is done in a way that gives her that level of authority and stability. But unfortunately, this is where we do come to the end of our discussion this morning. Dr. Angus, I want to thank you so much for coming on this morning, and we do apologize for all of the audio issues that we faced earlier in trying to begin this conversation. However, we thank you for always making yourself available to us here on Tobago Updates. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we end the morning show here on Good Morning Tobago. We want to thank you so much for being a part of this morning's discussions. So thank you for your likes, your shares, and your comments, and all that you have been doing and continue to do to make Tobago Updates the #1 broadcaster here on the island of Tobago. Again, I am Shenell Felix, and have a wonderful day. See you tomorrow.